Welcome to The Aspiring Kryptonians, a podcast for Superman fans, hosted by Superman fans, and focused around all things, you guessed it, Superman. After all, we are aspiring Kryptonians. From comics, TV, film and animation, each week we discuss our thoughts on the latest releases, news and even some retrospective reviews. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the Aspiring Kryptonians podcast with me, Tasman, and the rest of the team, Ashley and Evan.
Hello.
It feels like it's been a while since we recorded last, hasn't it? It's been, I think, 4 weeks?
Something like that.
Yeah. It's almost been a month, but, life sometimes gets in the way of things. But don't worry, we're back and we'll keep it up from now onwards. And I also wanted to say a belated happy birthday to Ashley, who celebrated his birthday last week.
Thank you, guys. Yes, my first podcast back as the 36-year-old. Bring it.
And hello to those that are watching live, and feel free to dip in the conversation and just leave us a comment, and we'll answer as many questions and sort of read out as many of the comments as we can.
Absolutely.
Hello, David Beasley. That's good timing. So this episode, we've got a lot to cover because obviously it's sort of built up from the weeks that we have been away. So we've got some Superman and Lois news. And as for the comics, we've got a long list to get through, which includes Superman, Son of Kal-El issue 4, Batman, Superman, The Authority special, Dark Knights of Steel issue 1, which was amazing, Justice League Infinity issue 5, Superman 78 issue 3, Action Comics 1036, Justice League Last Ride issue 7, and finally Superman vs. Lobo 2. So yeah, it's probably going to be a long episode and there's a lot of information coming from there. So any spoilers, I'm sorry, you've had time to read these issues, but we are going to talk about these issues in depth. So if you haven't read them, just sort of blur it out a little bit or skip to the next section when you listen. So we'll start with a bit of Superman and Lois news, shall we?
All right.
So earlier this week, or I guess it was late last week, I can't remember which it was, but Series 2 was confirmed that it was going to release on the 11th of January 2022, which, I was quite surprised because I was expecting, usually you sort of wait at least a year between the series, and it seems like this one's not long finished, so I'm quite glad that it's quite soon because, we're all here for, we all love Superman and Lois content. So it's going to air alongside Naomi, which will premiere on the same day. So I'm hoping that kind of link means that eventually, maybe there's going to be some sort of tie-ins there, hopefully.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it makes sense because he's a big part of her storyline. So, and then, it's a lot earlier than I thought, but also it's kind of annoying because in the UK, Series 1 hasn't even been announced as to when it's even going to air. There's no news whatsoever. I keep asking Warner Brothers and DC, like, do we have a date? And they're like, no, nothing confirmed just yet. So, it seems it's just odd because people aren't going to wait that long, especially with the second series coming out. They're not going to wait that long for, they're going to watch it illegally, aren't they?
You guys can't even get it like digitally on Amazon or iTunes or anything like that? Wow.
Nope.
No.
Yeah. So
it's pretty odd as well because Batwoman seemed to drop straight away. I mean, straight away it found a home straight away on E4, and E4 have been notorious for sort of like grabbing up a lot of these kinds of shows as well. And yeah, for it to not even have a home yet is really kind of peculiar. And like you said, having season 2 come in, the perfect time of year, January, the January blues. Yeah. I love Christmas. I love that kind of season. And January, this is the perfect time for a splash of Superman. So I think it's a great slot for it. Yeah, definitely. But I just think they need to do some sort of announcement because people aren't going to wait to watch this. People are going to watch it illegally, and it's going to go against the numbers. So. Yeah, it's a little bit annoying. So luckily I've got access to the press portal so I can watch it without breaking any laws. But, I don't blame them. But yeah. So secondly, to do with Superman and Lois, Jenna Dewan is returning as Lucy Lane in the series. So she obviously played Lucy Lane in Supergirl. And I think she was in a relationship with Jimmy Olsen. Is that right?
I know she was in the comic books at one point. I couldn't remember from the show, though.
I think she was, but I quite liked her portrayal of Lucy Lane, and she was a lot like Lois. I think she was a bit more badass than what she's shown in the comics sometimes. So hopefully, with that Jimmy Olsen link, there will be a little bit of a crossover there too. So hopefully, we get Jimmy Olsen in Superman and Lois as well. But yeah, it's just another link to the Arrowverse, and like we've already got John Diggle. Obviously, Tyler and Bitsy were also in the Arrowverse. But it just seems like more and more members of the Arrowverse is creeping into this series, and I think John Cryer actually said that he would be up for reprising his role as Lex in Superman and Lois. So hopefully we get to see that as well.
I would love that.
Yeah. What do you guys think of Lucy Lane, or Jenna Dewan as Lucy Lane?
I don't remember. I don't remember her much. Wasn't she in like season 1 when it was on CBS, or when? Because it started on CBS and then transferred over to the CW. So I don't even remember, but it's cool. I like it when they tie that back in, because we've already established so many of Superman's supporting cast members in Supergirl. So like the casting issues are a no-brainer. Let's just bring them over. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. How about you, Ashley?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the character or the actress. So any inclusion is going to be great. Evan, you'll probably know this better than me or Tasmin. Was Lucy Lane Superwoman during the New Krypton story arc from a few years back?
Yes, I believe so.
Right. Yeah. That's where I know her from, and that was like a great period for me. I really enjoyed her character. I got the action figure. I loved her costume. So maybe they might even go down that route at some point. You never know.
I hope not.
That would be cool.
I don't want all of Superman's supporting cast to have superpowers, just let's have Superman and Supergirl and Superboy and leave it there, but yes, that was a great run of comics, Ashley. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I do really like the episodes where they do that, though. Like they do like a one-off where some, like I think, an example is in the Lois and Clark, the Adventures of Lois and Clark. Lois ends up getting powers for one of the episodes, and she wears this weird super suit. But I think it's quite funny. It sort of adds to the. I think Superman loses powers as well, so it's like role reversal, which is quite funny.
Yeah. Before we move on to other subjects, we've got a couple of comments here on this subject.
Okay. So George Serrano, welcome back, guys. Sucks to hear about Superman and Lois being inaccessible for some of you. It's my favorite piece of Superman media. Wow. Hello, George. Yeah, definitely. It just doesn't make any sense. It's been over a year now, I think, since the first series was released. Is that right? So it just doesn't make sense that it's so behind. But I think it's probably one of my favorite pieces of Superman media at the moment as well. Like it's every episode is top tier. So yeah, I'm excited that it's going to be back so soon.
I agree.
Yeah.
And David Beasley says Jimmy and Lucy had already broken up before season 1 of Supergirl. Okay, so there was that link. So they were in a relationship. So, maybe that means Jim is more off limits in Superman and Lois because then they don't get on.
And then George says, any thoughts on Supergirl ending? I haven't seen it, and I don't want to talk about it because I haven't seen it. So, sorry, George.
I haven't seen it either. I've still got to catch up on the whole final series, actually. Same with all the Arrowverse shows. I haven't watched any of the recent series, so I need to catch up. So I'm sad that it's gone because it seems like I think they made quite a big deal of it I've seen it all over social media. So yeah, it's sad to see it go, but I think, 6 series in, the kind of, they're taking a lot of the Superman storylines already. So I think it's probably time.
Kind of ran its course, didn't it?
Yeah. So we'll move on to Superman Son of Kal-El issue 4, which is written by Tom Taylor with art by Daniel DiNiculo, I think, and colours by Gabe and Hi-Fi. My what's the word? Pronunciation skills have gone. It's been so long.
Rather you than me. I thought you'd done a bang up job there.
Well, firstly, there's been this whole thing between Gabe Al-Taib and DC, so I'm not sure if he actually got sacked or whether he actually quit himself. I think it's because he didn't agree with the changes that were made in terms of John's sexuality, so he's now left the book. So I think he did half of this, and then it was taken over by Hi-Fi, and then I know that Hi-Fi has actually recolored the original images that were released to announce all of this news. So I'm not sure what happened there, but there's all a bit of drama. So first of all, the standard cover, which is by John Timms, which we just shown you there. There you go. It's gorgeous. I love it. Well, it's kind of like bittersweet, isn't it? Because it's the Kent farm being destroyed, but it's just the detail in it is amazing.
And I was wrong with my theories from last episode, where I theorized that it was protected because they had said it was protected, but apparently not against space attacks, I guess.
Yeah, I saw that cover before, so I knew it kind of got destroyed, but I wasn't sure whether that was just to draw people in to buy in the comic. And the variant cover is by Inhyuk Lee, and it's amazing. It's like obviously John coming out of the wreckage of the Kent farm, furious. I love it. It's so good. I think that's probably my favorite piece of his work. Love it.
That's awesome.
So in the issue, we start off moments before the attack on the Kent farm as John starts to realize what's happened and tries to get everybody out. It's here that he discovers Jay Nakamura, soon to be his partner, also has powers. So he reaches out to grab him and his hands pretty much just go straight through him, meaning that he can't be hurt by the attack, so he's got time to save Jonathan and Martha instead. But that's quite a cool little breakthrough. I wasn't expecting him to have powers.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I dug it. I like the whole intangible kind of power, and the way that the artist portrayed it in the book was great. Like just seeing his fingers go through, and it was an interesting little a little tidbit. And do you know what? And it ties in beautifully to Tom Taylor's other work on Suicide Squad, but we'll obviously get into that a bit later.
Oh, so you think the stories are going to cross into each other?
Characters for sure.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Yeah, I know who you mean now. So the Justice League arrive here and they kind of jump to the conclusion that Fault Line is to blame. So she's the one that attacked, obviously unknowingly, because she was overcome by President Bendix and was forced to do it against her will and against her knowledge. Just like the first few attacks that she's done. So I think John really proves himself here to the Justice League, because sometimes I think John underestimates himself, but here he really stuck his ground. If he hadn't stepped in, then it would have been a completely different situation, because they would have just apprehended her and not actually listened to but she didn't even know what had gone on herself. So
yeah, I mean, I loved it when the Flash kind of stopped by and said like, "Good job, kid." And stuff like that. Really sort of reassuring. And it's a good thing it was those members of the league, because if it was Batman, he would have probably been like,
yeah,
I could have done it better.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
Do we know if this Wonder Woman Diana, or is this her mom?
I think it's her. I think it's Diana.
Okay.
I believe so. I'm not sure if it ties into the Justice League current series, because I don't know why, but I don't actually read that series. I probably should. So the moment where John takes time to look at the wreckage of the Kent farm, that was quite emotional, because he's kind of like, they kind of say in that part, the structure can be rebuilt, but the memories that he's made there can't. And then you've got this sort of flashback of all the memories that he has there, like growing up as a kid, which is really sweet.
Yes, and all those memories are new, because originally he did not grow up with the Kents, and then through Mr. Mixius Spitalik, everything got merged together, and now that history has been rewritten with those memories. Very
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Well, it's there where John realizes that he's very much become a target, and he's very deep into the whole refugee situation. Like there's no denying it now. President Bendix knows who he is, knows where he lives, knows who his family is, knows that his dad is off Earth. So he's obviously taken advantage of that moment, and I don't think that's going to be the only attack. So Jay calls upon some friends, which I think is what Ashley was referring to with the Suicide Squad, which is Airy and the Wink. I think these characters were also in Deceased.
Yes, they were.
One of the Deceased. I think it was one of the spin-off series.
Yeah, at World's End.
Are they new characters? Because I don't know that much about them other than what I'd seen in Deceased.
Yeah, so these are new characters created by Tom Taylor from his Suicide Squad run that lasted like 11 issues. And they were introduced then, and he subsequently used them in, as you said, Deceased at World's End, the digital series that was recently made up into a a hardback collection. So yeah, they are characters that have already got some type of established history within the DC universe. So big payoff, I think, for people that picked up that series like I did.
Yeah.
So seeing him in this, it was great, and the sort of the synergy and the link between Jay and Aerie, completely on point, because obviously they come from the same nation, and they played a big role in the Suicide Squad. So anyone that's enjoying Son of Kal-El and Tom Taylor should definitely check out Suicide Squad, because it's come in a really nice hardback recently. So, and these characters are in that. So,
and David Beasley says the Wonder Woman currently in the Justice League is Hippolyta, Diana's mom. Oh, okay.
Yeah. See, like you, Tasman, I'm not reading this series now. Evan, a few weeks back, I mistaken Black Adam, and you said it was Billy Batson now as Black Adam. So can you shed a bit of light on this series for us? Because I'm not reading.
I haven't been reading it either. I haven't reading it. I knew enough from I think promos that was Billy Batson and not Teth Adam. But I was confused about the Hippolyta thing, because I've seen Wonder Woman in other stuff currently, and she's in her her classic movie outfit, and then they've been careful to differentiate all her other Wonder Women, because they all have the same name, Wonder Woman, but they're all in different costumes, so you can tell them apart, I guess. So yeah.
Okay, maybe I need to start reading Justice League. You guys will have to the listeners will have to let me know a good point to jump on, because I don't want to go back to the very start, because there's a lot of reading, but I'll read it through eventually, I guess. But yeah, it was nice to see Aerie and the Wink back, because like I said, I've only heard of them from Deceased. I think it was a Hope at World's End, was it you said?
Yeah,
that series.
It was, yeah.
But the artwork is great here. I love the way that Danielle's drawn the Metropolis skyline. It's just, you've got the Daily Planet all golden. It just looks gorgeous. But it seems like John, Jay, and their friends are going to start building a new team, because I think John doesn't quite want to. Well, he said that he doesn't want to join the Justice League because they're not helping his dad. So I'm kind of assuming that Fault Line is going to join them once she's completely freed of whatever Bendix has done to her. So I think there may be a new super team on the way. I hope. And I hope more people are going to join it as well, because I guess there's not that many. I mean,
maybe the Teen Titans.
Yeah, and we probably haven't seen all that Jay can do, because all we've seen is that he can, be touched through. Yeah. I don't know what the technical term for that is.
Intangibility. Yes. John was a part of the Teen Titans for 5 minutes. So yes, this would be his second super team, if you don't count Super Sons.
On the Legion as well.
Oh yes, so this would be his third. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's joined a lot of teams, John.
Team player.
Yeah, clearly lives a team. Well, against Lois's advice, John pays President Bendix a visit, which I love that he went to her for advice, and then was just like, "Nah, I'm just going to do it anyway." Lois obviously knows the score. I'm sure Superman's gone to her many times to get advice, and he probably actually listens to her. So, John should have listened to his mom. So he arrives and soon realizes that it's a trap. He also finds, I can't remember the character's name, but the fire character we met in the first issue. He's also there. And he's trapped there, and the heat that he's encased in is actually, John thinks it's there to stop him, but it's actually there to hinder John. So it supercharges him, which I thought was a little bit odd. It's a weird attack to supercharge a Superman.
It doesn't make it doesn't make too much sense either, because he's empowered by the radioactive fire from the sun, or the ultraviolet light, and this guy's just making fire. It's not the same as solar radiation, so I'm not exactly sure how that works.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be explained at some point, but yeah, it kind of supercharges him to the point where he can't handle or control his powers. So he sort of flies back up, flies out of the ship or wherever he is, and he can hear everything all at once, and he's kind of trying to zone in on where he actually is. So I guess the attack did work, but I was just thinking, why would you want to supercharge a Superman who is already powerful? You know, it could have gone very differently for Bendix.
Well, one thing I did appreciate about this was when John first shows up to the president's, chambers, the president is like, "Are you out of your mind? You can't do this." And he's like, he's incredibly confident. And I'm just like, dude, this is like a teenage punk kid. Like, you can't tell him what he can and can't do. Like, it reminded me of that because he has no power over him whatsoever. He's just a little man, and he's trusting that standing on ceremony or legality will save him. It reminds me of that scene in The Dark Knight Rises where the guy Daggett is talking to Bane, and he's like, "I've paid you a fortune," and Bane's like, "And you think this gives you power over me?" And like he just puts his hand on his shoulders, like, "Do you feel powerful?" And so like, you're totally, it's a gamble, yet you're so filled with confidence that this guy's just not going to throw you through a wall. Yeah, he feels like it.
See, this reminds me of, and I think older listeners might appreciate this, Lethal Weapon 2, Diplomatic Immunity. No, it's lost on you guys.
I've seen it, but I can't remember it.
At the end of the day, you just can't go rushing in and doing what you want, So I did appreciate that too, where he kind of stopped and said, "You do know you've just invaded a foreign country. You've broken more laws currently than I have." So.
And don't you think President Bendix looks a lot like Lex Luthor? Because every time I see him, I think of Lex Luthor.
I think he looks like Lando Calrissian's pal from Empire Strikes Back.
Yes,
Lobot.
Yes. Lobot. And he also maybe kind of looks a little bit like Brian Michael Bendis.
Well, the name is very similar.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe him and Tom Taylor have got beef, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to make you a supervillain."
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a beef because, Rogol Zaar was created and named after the doctor who saved Brian Michael Bendis' life in the hospital. And so he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to name a character after you." And she's like, "Okay, whatever," because she didn't really know who he was. And then she like looked him up, came back, and she's like, "Okay, I know who you are now, and I want to look like this." And she showed him like this really like sexy comic book superhero with like no clothes on. And he's like, "Yeah, you're actually going to be a giant no-nose
warrior man,
monster warrior man."
That's amazing. I didn't know that. Yeah. I love that. Fair play to him. Anything else to say on that issue? I enjoyed it. Obviously, it's kind of setting up for the next issue, which I think is going to be a bit of a iconic one, and there's going to be a lot of split reactions from the readers, I think. But yeah, what did you guys think of this one?
I really enjoyed it. It definitely carried the tone of, this isn't, I think even Lois says in it, this isn't a supervillain, that you can just go and hear, so he's still continually dealing with real world issues and the moral rights and wrongs of doing things, like, do you step over a nation sort of boundary to save thousands, even though you yourself are now breaking the law? So fascinating stuff. I think Tom Taylor has definitely thought about, the path that he's going to make Jonathan walk down and the ramifications of the decisions that he makes. I think he's going to get, it's going to be interesting. I think he's going to definitely get bitten more times than he's going to be thanked in this series. Is Jonathan.
I love the geopolitical intrigue stuff. I think that's fascinating. It's a place you don't go often with Superman because like we said before, like once you cross that line, it's hard to uncross that line. And now it has ramifications for every story you're going to tell in the future. But I think it's a good move doing this with his son, so you can still do the same things, but it's not impacting the iconic character of Clark Kent. And then I liked the issue. The only thing I didn't enjoy was the fact that the Kent farm got blown up, despite having said that there was protections beforehand. So hopefully we'll get I'm a continuity snob and a continuity nerd, and there needs to be explanations here. But yeah,
they did make up for it though. They did make up for it though, because every leaguer said multiple times, "Oh, this farm is protected. Oh, this farm is protected."
yeah.
So I think sort of like I think we took it like literally like a protective dome or shield, rather than it's under the league's protection. So
true.
They were just too slow.
Flash.
Exactly. Wally, it should have been Barry.
It's all Flash's fault. Okay, well, seeing as we've got so many comics to cover, we'll move on to Batman Superman The Authority Special, which is written by Philip Kennedy Johnson with art by Trevor Hairsine, Jonathan Glapion, Scott Hanna, Rain Barredo, and Ben Temple-Smith. There's a lot of artists in this one, and I think the way that they've sectioned them out is really clever. But the first cover is by Rodolfo. Oh my god. Rodolfo. I can't even say it. Rodolfo. There you go. Migliari. And Beautiful. It's amazing. I love this cover. I love his artwork anyway. The detail is just so realistic, and I think obviously Superman's based on Christopher Reeve there, and Batman's got a very classic look as well. I think it's just iconic. I love it.
Yeah, it's a great cover.
Yeah, and the variant cover is by Ji Hyung Lee, and it's another great cover. Not my favorite of the two, I will say, but it's amazing. I love the way they've sort of portrayed the speed. Like you can see how quickly the clouds are moving. You can kind of just about see Batman in his little ship. But yeah, I like it.
Little ship.
So, little ship.
Don't let me say that. It's a bat plane.
Oh, sorry. SOS. The technical term. It's a bit like the alien thing, isn't it? The crabs.
Oh. You've just got a way about you.
So I just don't know the official names for things, so I make it up myself. So this issue kind of took me aback a little bit, because I thought I was expecting it to follow another mission. I thought it was going to tie into what was already set, but this was like a brand new mission that, well, unless it's something that's in the current Batman stories or Justice League, it's something that I've not even heard of before. It's just a brand new mission for the Authority. But basically they take on a side mission to help Batman take on the Empire of Shadows from the Dark Multiverse. And it seems a little bit harsh for Batman to ask them, because they even mention this when they're looking to accept the mission. But there's a whole discussion where they think Batman's only asking them because he doesn't want to risk the Justice League, because this multiverse is so dangerous. And because of I think in one, I can't remember which issue it is, but one of the previous issues, Batman says, "Oh, this is your team." So it was like a test for them, I guess. If I was them, I would have been like, "Do it yourself." No, thank you. But yeah, like I said before, I like the way that the different artist work is used on the different universes. So each one is kind of split. So you kind of know how to differentiate where they are and who the characters are involved. But June, or Enchantress, is able to take the Authority and Batman and Superman to this other universe to stop them, after Batman's sort of getting intel from a being. I can't remember the name of the being. It begins with an F. Who's being, there you go. Who's being experimented on and pretty much torn apart, isn't he? He's kind of strung up, and they're taken bit by bit from him to sort of test their experiment. And I like how when they get to the Dark Universe, they kind of explain how the gravity works. So they're kind of all distorted and they're all really long and skinny, which was I like that. It's quite cool. They then realize it's a trap, and they've been lured there basically so that the Empire of Shadows can take the Enchantress, so that she can become a living multiverse as teleporter, so that they can take over the world basically. But yeah, I don't really have too much to say about this one, because I enjoyed it. But like I said before, it kind of I was expecting it to carry on with the storyline of the other series, like Action Comics and The Authority. But it was a very action-packed issue. It was nice to see Superman and The Authority fighting side by side with the help of Batman. And I think, I can't remember the character's name, but the one that looks very similar to Batman. And I think they referenced that in the comic, the one that's all in black. Midnighter, yeah. I love the bit where he's fighting. He sort of stays back with Batman, doesn't he? And he's fighting some of the members of the Empire, and well, they're all kind of members of the Bat family. I think it just looks great. But yeah, like I said, I don't really have too much to say about this one.
I will say I really did enjoy the inclusion of Tempest Fugonaut. He's a cool character. He's basically he's a newer character. I think he first appeared in the Sideways miniseries, and then he was the main character from he's a main character in the Flash series where where Wally West is going, and then he's in the Dark Multiverse stuff. So he's basically like DC's the Watcher. Yeah, DC's version of the Watcher. Yeah. And I love the Watcher, so I think he's a cool character. And it's nice that he continues to get some screen time, as it were, in the comic books. Apart from that, though, didn't really enjoy this comic. I did not even finish reading it.
No?
Nope, I put it down. And I skipped to the very end to see what happened with Batman and Superman. But it was not grabbing me. I'm not a fan of this team, actually, honestly. The Authority.
The Authority.
I'm not really interested in the characters. I don't really care about most of them. The only one I really am invested in is Manchester Black. It didn't grab me.
That's fair enough. How about you, Ashley?
Yeah, this I think I'm going to echo both your points because I predominantly reviewed the Batman Superman title for the blog, and that very much felt like an end. And you, Tasman, very much covered the Authority, the Superman Authority book, which is like a 1-4. So this book really did spring out of nowhere for me. I was talking to Evan just before the show started. Where does this kind of lay in the foundation that we've kind of been used to? Because there is no more Batman Superman at the moment. The Authority was a 1-4, so this kind of just came out of nowhere. But obviously that's fine. Comic books can spring out of nowhere. I loved the artwork in this bad boy. Is it Trevor Hare?
I'm not 100% sure which artist did which part because there's about 5 different artists on the book, so I can't be sure, but possibly.
But Trevor, my pronunciation.
That's how I would say it.
Obviously, Mr. Deceased. So as soon as I saw his artwork in this, I was like, it was awesome. But yeah, I really liked how the artwork was all compartmentalized. The artwork in the Shadow Realm was just, it was lush. It was great. But yeah, like Evan kind of said, not really caring too much about this team or the characters as such. I think, unfortunately, there's a reason why books get cancelled or characters are kind of sidelined, like a lot of the Wildstorm characters like Grifter, Apollo, Midnighter. They have their fans, obviously, they have their followings, but there is a reason why they don't have an ongoing title or a part of the wider kind of DCU. And it's a shame because like these characters do have followings, but yeah.
DC really tries to keep making Grifter happen. They keep trying, and it never sticks. I will say one last thing about the artwork is I'm not usually a fan of multiple artists on one book, but this was the perfect device for that because it's in 2 different worlds. And, honestly, if they were writing a book and doing a multiple world thing, I'd be okay if they added, an artist just for that purpose, because that's a great storytelling device and a great way to showcase 2 artists in one book that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you say you don't really care for the characters. I really like Manchester Black, and I've taken a bit of a liking to Midnighter and Apollo, and Steel. But other than that, I'm not that. I don't really like Enchantress. Light Ray, I don't think we've really seen enough of her to have an opinion on her yet. But I don't think that's why. I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy the issue. I did enjoy it, but it for me, because it was very Batman centric with all the League, the Empire of Shadows and stuff, I did find it a little bit hard to read because I'm not familiar with that sort of lore anyway. So
that's all.
I see what you mean.
All this stuff's coming out of the death metal stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, can we please just end this? Like, it's just been going on for so long, and they just keep going back to it.
Yeah. I do want to make amends so quickly. I didn't mean characters that I don't like. because obviously every character has a place and every character has its fans. But yeah, just not characters that I'm particularly familiar with and have had a lot of backstory with. So apologies if I
that's fair enough. No.
Insulted any Midnight fans out there.
But I will say it does go a long way to explain why the Justice League isn't helping Superman in Action Comics with the Warworld thing, because this is a threat now that's sort of currently happening, and it's going to probably happen on Earth. So, you know, it needs all the help it can get, because this is obviously quite a big supervillain team. And it's sort of nice to see Batman and Superman sort of coming to terms at the end as to why Superman needs to go and why he can't wait for the Justice League to help him. And it seems like they both kind of understand each other's reasoning behind that. So it's kind of like getting their friendship back on the rails, I think, because I think it was a little bit frosty and shady between Superman and the Justice League because of what happened in Action Comics. So that bit was quite nice. On to my favourite issue of the podcast, which is Dark Knights of Steel issue 1, written by Tom Taylor and art and colours by Yasmin Putri. I love this series already so much. But the main cover is by Yasmin Putri, and there's also a character variant that she did, which for this issue is Superman. So that's the main cover, and that's the character cover there. The character cover is all right. It's kind of like a top trump thing, where you kind of get a better look at Superman's suit, and you can kind of see, you know, his skills and where he sort of stands. He's pretty high in every sort of category there. The main cover, which we just showed you a second ago, is I think it's gorgeous. Looks like a stained glass window. Love it.
Yeah.
And don't you think Superman looks like John Travolta?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a lot.
I just can't get out of my head. But yeah, it's a great cover. And the other variant cover is by Joshua Middleton and is Batman riding up on a very mean-looking horse.
I'm trying to find it.
That one.
Here we go. Yep.
There we go.
That's great.
Yeah, that's so good.
That's
epic. I mean, Batman on a horse. As a Batman fan, you just don't need much more than that.
Yeah, I found 12 covers for this thing, and I think some of them were like wide release, and I think some of them were comic book store specific releases. So here, I'll just scroll through these real quick so we can all look at them.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen them all. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And then there's a more classic looking Joker. Same
pose,
same horse. Yeah. That looks like Bane, maybe?
Oh, is that a Delotto?
I don't know.
Looks like it, doesn't it?
That is fantastic.
I love this one.
Oh, that's
Look at the detail on that. Great stuff. This one's cool.
Nice.
Yep.
Trinity.
Yeah. We're not ripping off Game of Thrones at all.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thought it looked familiar. That's nice.
I love this artist.
Who's the artist?
Remember his name. I don't remember his name, but he's great. He did Batman White Knight. Great artist.
Oh, is that Sean Murphy?
I don't know.
Oh wow!
Here's a very realistic.
That looks like a
Harley Quinn.
That looks like a photo.
Yeah. And then here's the last one.
Nice.
Pretty
That's
cool.
great.
That looks like it could be on the cover of like Settlers of Catan or something.
That's great. They're all wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of covers. That's a lot of money. But yeah, I love this issue. I'm a big fan of Tom Taylor, as we've said many times in this podcast. Like, this man's imagination is like no other. Like, I don't know how he gets all of these ideas, and he's kind of got I'm sure he's doing 10 different books at a time. So kudos to him for sort of putting in the detail as well for each and every one of them. But this is basically like an Elseworld story, isn't it? And I love an Elseworld story. I love fantasy. I love historic dramas like that. So this combined with superheroes it's just right up my street. I love it. So we start out at the very start, which is a bit of a retelling of the destruction of Krypton. And I thought this was a great retelling. Normally, I'm tired of seeing the destruction of Krypton, and a lot of them are very similar, and there's small tweaks. But this one, there's a small tweak, but it's the fact that Jor-El and Lara are the ones in the ship, and they're the ones that crashed down on Earth, and Lara's actually giving birth while she's doing it. What a trooper.
Yeah, this is very like classic Elseworlds, where it's not just, this is an alternate story, but we're starting from the very beginning of the character, and we're changing one thing about their origin, and then we're off to the races with everything else. Yeah, very classic. And it reminds me a little of Superman Red Sun, where you have all the other characters in the DC universe have also coincidentally been born 500 years early the same places as Superman. So it's nice, and I definitely got some Marvel 1602 vibes from this.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't read that, but I guess
it's
see
good.
What you mean.
Yeah, it's reimagining all of the DC universe or the Marvel universe in a different historical context.
Nice. But yeah, so Jor-El's trying to sort of protect her as a herd of knights and horses, I guess they are running toward them, and he loses control and pretty much kills the lot of them, which I thought was quite brutal. The artwork there is amazing. You can see like the skin melting from the people's faces, which, well, it's obviously not nice, but the detail's great. But it's definitely an explosive start. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I'm not mad at it at all.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, we then see Constantine.
Sorry, I was just going to say that period of time I assume was very sort of cutthroat and very sort of bloody, and this is just a reimagining of that. I can imagine things went down. Yeah, I can imagine things went down during that period of time and went down hard, and this is a byproduct of it. So I loved it.
Maybe not with laser eyes though.
But he's got to protect his wife and newborn kid. He's trying to reason with them. They're not listening. So
yeah. No,
it was shocking though, because I thought the arrows were going to penetrate them. I thought it was going to kill them, but obviously it was the artwork was done in a way where no, he's used his heat vision to protect them. So good stuff.
Yeah, that's good. We then see Constantine sort of revealing the prophecy to Black Lightning. I'm assuming it is, and he's the king of one of the kingdoms. I'm assuming.
He's a king.
We haven't really got much backstory on that part of the story yet, but obviously I'm sure it's to come.
Sort of like a rival kingdom.
Yeah. So I love how Tom Taylor's given each DC character a perfect role in this so far. This is exactly how I would have pictured Constantine if he were thrown back to this era. Like, he's kind of like that anyway, isn't he? He's sort of riddling off the prophecies and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of further on in the issue, we see Harley Quinn kind of being a jester, which I thought was quite good. And yeah, it's just a great idea. And the way he's placed all the characters in the individual roles, I guess, is I love it. It's really good. We then jump 19 years ahead. So this is very much a young Superman and Batman in the castle of El, which has just got a great ring to it. So they've clearly taken the throne. I love all the costume adaptations, the way it's just so detailed, and I like seeing the imagination behind it. Like, Superman's kind of got his red cape on the one shoulder with the Superman emblem sort of as a brooch, I guess. Yep. It's just great. It looks good. But Batman is essentially Superman's bodyguard, which I thought was quite funny. And obviously Superman's eager to go with him, and Superman's got all the powers that he has normally, so he doesn't really need a bodyguard, but he has one anyway. I think we have a comment there. So yeah, so David Beasley says, weird how Bruce feels like he's older than Kal, but obviously has to be younger.
Yes, and we're going to get to that in a second.
Is he younger?
Yes, because we're going to get to that in a second.
Okay.
Well, I feel that obviously with Superman probably having powers and being part of the royal family, he's probably lived a more privileged, more sort of padded out life, whereas Bruce has probably, lived maybe a more harder life and more sort of like authentic to that kind of era living. So he probably feels like through his life experiences, he's probably older. That's what I kind of went for anyway.
Like mentally, like
yeah.
Possibly. I mean, Bruce. I believe it's implied in the series that the Waynes were the king and queen before the L's were. And the L's didn't take over the kingdom, but the Waynes bequeathed the kingdom to the L's before they died. So it's interesting that Bruce would not be considered a prince and was, I believe he's chosen to be this bodyguard role.
I still think there's definitely going to be more padding out as the issues go by with like the past and whatnot. I mean, Tom Taylor's just ace at kind of world building. So
yeah. So there's a range of members from the Bat family involved here. I think Evan's probably going to be able to tell us more about who the characters are, but I think from the issue they're called Richard and Duke. Is that right?
So that's Dick Grayson, and I believe it's Duke Fox. Is it? No,
Duke Thomas.
Duke Thomas. He was Batwing, right? He's
Signal.
Signal, because the Fox kid is Batwing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, yes. Signal. I haven't read anything with Signal in it, but I'm aware of the character. He's a new kind of Robin sidekick kind of guy.
Yeah, he was created by Scott Snyder during the 0 year event. So he's a Scott Snyder kid.
Yes, and then Richard is Dick Grayson, who's the original Robin in the main continuity.
But his suit, obviously, is Nightwing. It looks a lot like Nightwing's suit. He's kind of got the Nightwing emblem. Yeah.
He becomes Nightwing after he is Robin. And then we've got Stephanie, I believe, who is, spoiler, Tim Drake's girlfriend, and she was Batgirl at one point and Robin at one point. So she's been a lot of things. And then Jason Todd, who is the second Robin, who is famous for dying.
I wonder if he'll die in this one. I think there's going to be a lot of deaths in this one, judging by this first issue. So I think possibly. But that team sort of infiltrate a pub to find a woman who turns out to be the Black Canary. She, of course, attacks, which is fair enough. You got all these people coming after you. And Superman, obviously, unknowingly to Batman, I suppose they're not Superman and Batman in this, are they? They're Kal-El and Bruce. But
we can call him Superman and Batman.
Yeah.
Well, he is called the Batman, but swear word in it, right? They refer to him as the Batman.
I don't remember that.
They do.
I don't remember that.
They call him in this. They call him the Batman. I don't want to say it on the.
Okay.
I'll have another look for that.
The string of emojis and symbols, Batman. Yeah.
Okay.
How they do it in the comic books.
Yeah, I love when they do that because I like to guess what the swear word is because it could be anything.
No, they do say in the book issue. They do say in the issue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, and they. So I did not expect that to be Black Canary because they kept calling her Banshee, so I thought it was going to be Silver Banshee, and she has medieval origins anyway. So I thought, that makes sense to have her. But yeah, I like it that it was Black Canary. Cool way to cameo her, put her in there. Yeah.
Well, Superman obviously followed them, and he was the only one who could withstand it and actually get her to shut up. So it's a good thing that he went. But the artwork is great here too. And also with the moment where Jor-El lasered all of those people, and the detail is amazing. You can see, I don't know why, but Yasmin Putra's just got away with letting the superheroes' powers take over. You can see each individual shard of glass sort of flying when she attacked. The detail was just great. So they bring her back to the castle where Superman is given a bit of a telling off by the king and queen. But I love seeing them. I don't know, because normally we see, I love Jonathan and Martha, but it's usually them that we see sort of teaching Superman his ways and stuff. So I quite like that it's been shifted a little bit and it's actually Jor-El and Lara for the time being.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too because it's a very different role for them. They're not used to being rulers,
Yeah.
And so they not only are they have the role as parents, but now they are parents to a prince and they're in charge of the country. So it's a very different take on them anyway. But yeah, it's kind of cool to have them there with him.
Yeah.
And I believe that's going to affect Superman's personality. I'm already getting a slight tinge of, I'm like young Thor kind of, from the Marvel movies where it's I'm used to doing this stuff. I can take care of myself. He's kind of a little more swagger than usual.
Yeah, I get that as well. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how his upbringing has changed and what sort of happened between those 19 years, because that's a long period of time to be a ruler. I'm sure there's been plenty of attacks and events happen between then as well. But they kind of, in this part, they kind of explain the relationship between them and Bruce or Batman. So he's kind of been adopted into their family a little bit, which makes sense because at the beginning, like him and Superman really have sort of like a brotherly banter between them, which I quite enjoyed. So I'm looking forward to seeing a bit more of that as well. The prophecy, well, when Constantine's sort of ringing out the prophecy, there's a lot of mentions about the Green Man, which is who, but we don't really know who it is until sort of later on in the issue where, so I thought at first it was Green Arrow, but it's actually the Green Lantern who's sort of leading the Green Arrow into attacking the Kingdom. Is that right?
Yeah. And so
I thought it was Martian Manhunter originally.
They don't call him Green Lantern. His name is the Green Man because he glows green, I guess. So that's a cool name. But Green Arrow here kind of reminds me of Robin Hood. He looks a lot like Robin Hood in the panel where he kind of looks like Robin Hood anyway, doesn't he? But, you know, more so in this. And just as Jor-El and Batman are having a heart-to-heart, one of those arrows that Green Arrow has let off, I guess, or shot, probably sounds better, falls right into Jor-El's eye, which obviously, well, I'm assuming kills him. What a cliffhanger. Yeah, and it seems to be a kryptonite arrow as well. But we missed the biggest twist in the thing, which is that Batman and Superman are actually brothers. They are blood brothers because Jor-El is Bruce Wayne's dad in this. He had an affair with Martha Wayne, the Queen. Yes, and so that is why Bruce has to be younger than Clark because he wasn't conceived until after Jor-El got there. So yes, very interesting that Superman and Batman are actual brothers, and now Batman knows that. And so it'll be interesting to see how that interaction goes with the next issue where they discuss that, I'm assuming. Yeah.
I do have a few, they're not negative points, but things that I would have liked to have seen in this issue and probably the storyline. I would have liked some more interaction between Kal-El and Jor-El. Obviously, we know their history. Obviously, the history in this issue is different, but we know the history normally. So I would have liked to have seen a bit more interaction between them because it seemed to focus on Batman quite a lot, which I know is to do with the storyline. And secondly, though this makes for a great storyline, I'd have liked to see Jor-El stay in the pages of the comic a little bit longer because he seemed like a very wise and nice king. So I would have liked to have seen a bit more of him. But yeah, other than that, it was a phenomenal issue. Like everything, I wasn't expecting anything that happened to happen. It was just completely, it just blew my mind, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Well, here's another twist for you. In this continuity, Batman has now lost 3 parents instead of just 2. So, bummer.
Is he going to be even dark and broodier? I think this is one of my favorite issues of the year so far.
Yeah,
it's great. I love this thing. And to be fair, like Green Arrow and Green Lantern being the 2 kind of outside kind of operating outside of the peripheries of the kingdom kind of thing makes perfect sense for them too, because obviously their history together, you know, Denny O'Neil's run on the Green Arrow, Green Lantern team up book, you know, Hard Traveling Heroes, it makes perfect sense for those 2 characters to be together. As soon as I saw that, I was taken right back to that kind of storyline, and they're great characters, and this was just wonderful. This was just a really enjoyable read.
And Ashley,
does this issue as well?
Ashley, does this remind you at all of that arc in the original Batman Superman run where they're kidnapped as babies and raised as brothers by the evil Legion of Superheroes? You remember that? And then all the other heroes had to fight against them.
I think personally, you nailed it on the head when you said, you know, traditional Elseworlds. This is bang smack late 90s, early 2000s Elseworld stories. and it's just it was just beautiful. I mean, like the ring, how Green Lantern's ring was more like a jewel or something, tying into that kind of period of time.
Yeah,
and like you said, Tasman, Green Arrow is sort of Robin Hood, so he makes perfect sense. So this was wonderful, and you said it earlier on. Tom Taylor must be the hardest working man in comics at the moment, because I'm kind of reading everything he's doing. He's doing this. He's doing Dark Ages for Marvel. He's doing Nightwing. He's also doing Secret Seven. Secret 7, which I'm reading.
I thought it was Secret 6.
So it's one of his independent books. So he's going hell for leather.
Son of Kal-El.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of books that he's doing, and I don't know how he's doing it. Like, he's amazing.
Yeah.
We will move on to Justice League Infinity issue 5, which is written by J.D. Matthias and James Tucker, with art by Ethan Beavers and colours by Nick Filardi. So the cover for this one is by Megan Hetrick.
Hold on a second. I'm falling behind. Talk, stall, vamp. There we go.
There we go. And yeah, it's not my favorite cover in the world, but it's all right. I like the background, the Northern Lights kind of look.
Yeah, it's very stylized, isn't it?
Yeah, I haven't read the series, so I'm not sure what these characters have to do with the storyline. But yeah,
yeah, it's got Superman who looks like Tyler from the show, and then you've got President Superman, Metallo, Doomsday, and Zod, all from the Savage Time universe.
I see. That makes more sense. So, Evan, seeing as I haven't read this one, I'll let you take the lead on that one.
Okay. So, yeah, this issue takes place after that just iconic, maybe my favorite issue of the year, which is Wonder Woman snogging Darkseid, if I can borrow a British term. And so here Superman has shown up with the Justice League from President Superman's Earth, and they are taking Wonder Woman to figure out what's going on with the multiversal problems. And while they're going to find out, and they're in the spaceship, they're having a heart-to-heart conversation, and he describes what happened back on the Savage Time Earth, which is the Nazi-controlled Earth that Vandal Savage took over. And he recounts how they finished up that fight and got to where they are. And so with that, what happened was they decide that they're going to go save the multiverse, but before they do that, they need to take down the Nazis first while they're there. So it's Zod and his freedom fighters, and they all storm Vandal Savage's castle along with Superman and President Superman, and they're fighting. They fight a bunch of Vandal Savage clones. And then when they finally get to the main Vandal Savage, we see that in this Earth, Vandal Savage's immortality is finally worn off, and he is now aging like a regular person, and he's like 80 years old. But still, when he's 80 years old, he is able to kill General Zod with his secret sword cane, the trick with the cane and the sword. And General Zod on this Earth doesn't have any powers, I guess, because I don't know what's going on. But he kills General Zod, which makes everybody else angry, and they end up taking down the Fuhrer. And it's revealed that the Martian Manhunter of this Earth has been captured by Vandal Savage this whole time, and has been like tortured or something this whole time to use his psychic powers for their advantage. At this point, he's like a deformed little mutant toad guy because of all the horrors that he's been through, and he dies eventually. But before he does, he's able to pinpoint where the multiversal problems are, I think. So back on the ship, we get some interesting interactions between Wonder Woman and her doppelganger from President Superman's Earth, which is President Superman's wife. And that is so in the real President Superman comics as well, which, again, I wonder the question, is this the real President Superman that we're crossing over with, or is this another version of him built specifically for the Bruce Timm continuity verse. We don't know. And so Wonder Woman goes up to her and she's like, "Hey, Sister Amazon, let's be friends." She's like, "I'm not friends with you. I don't have to be friends with anybody." And Wonder Woman's like, "Oh, snap." And I think it's inferred at one point that this Wonder Woman had to kill all of her Amazonian sisters for some reason, because maybe they turned evil. I don't know. Yeah. So Wonder Woman's like, "Oh, snap. Okay, I guess I can't be friends with them." And then Wonder Woman is observing President Superman and the other Wonder Woman making out. And Superman's like, "Yeah, that's kind of awkward, isn't it?" Wonder Woman's like, yeah, it's really awkward. Don't talk to me about it ever again. So not sure what's going on there. A little romantic tension with Superman and Wonder Woman. But at the end, they find the Justice League that we all know and love have been shipwrecked and floating in space in the multiversal, the epicenter of what's going on. So we're going to figure out what's going on there next issue.
Wow. This issue has a lot going on. Like every time you talk about each issue, there's always a different character who's been taken over, and there's just loads going on. And I can't wait to read it, but obviously it's going to be a while.
Yeah,
and I think
you really have to know the continuity of the shows to fully appreciate everything going on.
Yeah, it sounds really good though. I can't wait to read it. Have you read it, Ashley? Do you read it?
I have, but I was just enjoying Evan's take on it so much. I honestly think you could do like an audible book or something, Evan. I really do. I'm interested to find out though, because like you were saying, with the President Superman stuff going on in this, there is a Justice League Incarnate series on the way, right? I believe, that spawned out of the Crime Syndicate book, I believe, or maybe not.
I thought it was the New Frontier or whatever it's called.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So obviously they are prepping for perhaps something big to happen in the movieverse for President Superman to be appearing so frequently now after quite a lot of time off. So that's going to be interesting.
I do really like the idea of that New Frontier book, or that Justice League Incarnate, whatever, where it's Justice League made up of members from across the multiverse, and they police the multiverse. I think that's a neat concept.
Yeah, I think it's by Joshua Williamson, who did the old Batman Superman run, which was really good anyway. So I think he's the writer, so I think it will be a good series. I'm not sure when it's out or if it's out already, but
and I believe he done Flash as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not too sure.
I can't remember.
So I think anyone that kind of works on the Flash, I think, is going to have a really good handle on sort of like multiversal kind of shenanigans. You know, like that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for it, because I'm not sure if it's out already, if it's something that's coming in the near future. So Superman 78 issue 3, which is written by Robert Venditti, art by Wilfredo Torres, and colours by Jordi Belair. So the first cover is by Amy Reeder.
It's coming.
So I'm plugging my laptop in.
There's so many covers this week. Here it is.
Let me tell you, this issue brought a tear to my eye.
Oh, really?
Yeah, big time.
Oh, well, we'll go into what moment in a second, but this cover is, it's a nice cover. I like the way they've put the reflection of Joanne and Lara in the ice behind him, and obviously you can see them holding hands in the forefront, which, it's a nice, it's very much like the Fortress of Solitude. Like you can tell that's where they are.
Yeah.
And the variant cover is by Lee Weeks, and it's my favourite.
Yep. This is my favorite cover this whole week.
Yeah, I think I agree. But I think this should have been the main cover. I know the other one links with the storyline a little bit more, but this one's just pretty. Yeah, I love it. I love the purple used for the sky. Look how shiny the Daily Planet looks, and it's a great cover.
I like the initiative that DC put into place, whereby the title of the book is very small, so that the artwork can really sort of speak for itself. I've always really enjoyed that with the variant covers.
Yeah. So this one picks up right where we left off with Brainiac surrendering, with Superman surrendering to Brainiac. So first of all, the character likenesses are back, because I think in the last issue they kind of slipped a little bit, especially with Lois Lane. She looked a little bit different to what she looked in the first issue, but she's gone straight back to looking just like Margot Kidder. And as soon as I saw that first panel with her in it shouting Superman, I was smiling. And we obviously see the mob defend. Well, they're not really a mob. The people of Metropolis defending Superman, because he's clearly one of them, and that's exactly how they think. Which I think it's a nice touch for them to say that Superman's one of them and protecting him against this being that they don't even know what he's capable of. And Superman's actually the one who has to talk them down to allow it to happen, because Brainiac starts to threaten them to be excised. Is that the right term? Is that what they're saying? Excised?
They're going to be basically pruned from existence because if they allow the invasive species to corrupt their habitat or whatever.
Yeah. And I love the moment here where Superman surrenders and he listens out for Lois's heartbeat, and they both say goodbye to each other. Which obviously Lois can't really hear him say goodbye, but he can hear her, which I think is just really sweet. Was that the moment that brought a tear to your eye?
One of many. I thought just the simplicity of that moment was spot on.
I've just got images of you reading it, sobbing like.
Oh, believe me, many times I've sobbed during all this stuff over the years. But I thought it was just so simple, and I think we've touched upon it in the podcast recently, where Superman's built in Lois's heartbeat, sort of like he knows it almost instinctual now. He doesn't have to look for it. It's kind of there in like a sort of like a tape deck, and her heartbeats at the very top. He can just sort of like rifle through them, or he just knows it. It was very simply done, and it was so effective, and straight away it reminded me of like Spider-Man, where they all start throwing stuff at Goblin and things like that. These are simple people. They're not simple people, but they're people that are never going to be able to stand up against the Brainiac, and yet they still put their life on the line using whatever they have at hand to try and save their own from being exiled or vanquished or taken or kidnapped.
Yeah, it's a good moment. He then gets taken to Brainiac's ship, and Lex Luthor turns up just in the nick of time to sort of wave him off, which really made me laugh. It kind of gloats to the whole of Metropolis, and also Lois, that brains always wins over brute strength. Like the dialogue there was just on point. I can just imagine Gene Hackman actually, like this whole series, I can imagine it really being acted out in film by these actors. Like it's so on point.
But he's there for a reason. He's not there just to gloat.
Yeah,
he's planting something on him.
But Gene Hackman had such a flair about him, and the way he just swaggered into this situation. We're all captivated by this green alien and this other alien. Let's all bring it back to me. I'm Lex Luthor, and the way he swaggers on through, and he's like, "I'm Brainiac. I allow you to take him. Superman. I allow you now to take him off." It's just brilliant.
Yeah. So on the ship, Superman gets preserved, aka shrunk, and is placed into the bottled city of Kal-El with the rest of the Kryptonians, including Jor-El and Lara, which I think, Evan, you predicted this in the first issue, that you said they were going to be alive and introduced at some point. So first of all, the artwork during the shrinking process was great. Like I really liked the use of the white and red to show the rays and sort of the heat coming off it. That was really effective. It's cool. And we see him wearing the white Kryptonian garb like his father Jor-El, which was quite nice to see, because I don't think we don't see that in the Christopher Reeve films, wearing that suit.
No.
And I really like the moment where he sort of goes on to describe the life he had on Earth with Jonathan and Martha. But it kind of seemed like he was kind of rubbing it in, like, oh yeah, they were great parents, you haven't been around, kind of thing. Yeah. Obviously, it's not their choice, but that's kind of what it seemed like a little bit for me. But the flashback artwork there was they're pretty much perfect replicas of what happened in the film. Like they've obviously taken the shot where Superman's lifted the car, and then obviously Jonathan and Martha find them. They are literally pulled straight from the film. It's like a photograph. So good. So Kal-El is given a tour of Kandor by his parents, and he sees some of the creatures of Krypton, and sees how they sort of go about their ways in terms of the Kryptonians. And I quite like that, because we never really saw much of this version of Krypton in the films, did we? Because obviously at the beginning, it's destroyed. So yeah, we don't in a lot of the other Superman films, you kind of go back a little. Well, I say a lot of the other Superman films. It's mostly Man of Steel, where you kind of go back to Krypton and you kind of see how the atmosphere is. But you kind of got that there, and I liked seeing all the different creatures. Weird though that they've got an iguana. Did you see? It's just a normal iguana.
Yep. Well, they've
like
got dogs.
They're just everywhere. Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
I forgot about them.
Yeah.
And essentially, as Jor-El sort of grows older, he's struggling to remember and work on finding a way out of the bowl, because he's kind of dedicated his time now to finding a way out so that they can live their lives. And he's planning to pass that knowledge down to Kal-El so he can continue the work if need be. So it sounds like, they're obviously a lot older. Superman's sort of grown up. They've aged at the same time. And, I think, well, obviously he's kind of, Jor-El's sort of old and weakened a little bit, and he knows that he's not going to be able to keep it up forever. And it's kind of sad because he's obviously spent all this time working on a solution, and he knows that he's not going to be able to solve the solution. He knows it's going to have to be passed down to Kal-El.
Well, it's interesting because in the comic books, when you're preserved by Brainiac, you don't age. Like in that recent run we were talking about, the New World of Krypton, Supergirl's parents were in Kandor, and they didn't age at all while they were preserved in there. So interesting that they've chosen a different route this time.
I mean, they don't necessarily say that they've aged, but I kind of just assumed because Jor-El's passing on the knowledge, but they don't really look that much older in terms of the artwork. So maybe that's still maybe just
the time spent there, trying to deal with the situation they're in is perhaps sort of like degraded the mind or the memory, or I think it's more just fatigue, like emotional, mental fatigue. Like I'm done, I'm spent, I've been here all this time and I've not been able to, sort of deal with this. Maybe fresh eyes, new blood can sort of help.
Well, it's a way better deal than what happened in the Krypton show, where they're preserved but they can't move at all, and they're still conscious, but they're frozen in place forever. I mean, that's just
that's a bit much, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a bit brutal. I'm glad they didn't go down that route for this. that would kind of ruin the storyline, wouldn't it? But yeah, it's going to be tricky for him, isn't it? Because he obviously has this life in Metropolis with Lois, and now he's been reunited in the bottle city of Kandor with his parents. So at some point he's going to have to make a choice whether he's going to stay or leave. Whichever one it is, so he's either going to have to leave his parents or leave Lois behind. So it's going to be interesting for him. Well, for us as readers, obviously, it's not going to be a very nice time for him having to go through that. But
easy fix. All you got to do is put Lois in that little chamber and push the button, and then she'll get superpowers, and then she can come be on Krypton with everybody else. Easy.
Will she get superpowers though?
It's the Donnerverse. He can rebuild the Great Wall of China with his eyeballs. We can do anything.
True.
Like, just make it up. It can happen.
Yeah. That's a good point. So, hi, Thomas. So, Thomas Wagner says, hi, Kryptonians. It's going to be sad to see Superman 78 and maybe Superman 83 with the return of Gus Gorman and Superman 87 with Nuclear Man. Yes, I would read every single one of those.
Right, that, Thomas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Superman 3 is actually my favorite Christopher Reeve movie. I know that's sacrilege for many people, but I think it's hilarious. And one cool thing was Bendis put Nuclear Man in the Phantom Zone in his run, so that's pretty cool.
He looks awesome as well.
Yeah.
Didn't Gus Gorman, was that played by Richard Pryor, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Didn't he get top billing above Christopher Reeve in that film? I'm sure I read that somewhere, because he was riding such a crest of a wave. He was more famous than Christopher Reeve almost.
Could be.
So,
possibly. That was kind of his era, wasn't it? He was in a lot of films during then, like See No Evil, Hear No Evil. That's one of my favorite films. I love Richard Pryor.
That is a great call, though, about extending the universes after the films. It's a bit like what they're doing with Star Wars at the moment. And the Star Wars books, they obviously started after A New Hope, and then they took a little hiatus, and now they're telling the story between Empire Strikes Back and Jedi. So that's a great idea.
Yeah. But I would definitely read each and every one of those. I hope they do that for every.
And Nuclear Man, I think that was Ivan Reis that done the character design or the new take on him, and he looks awesome.
Yeah, bring him back. So yeah, at the very end of the issue, Lois is kidnapped. Well, kind of kidnapped. She's taken by Lex Luthor, who has come up with a plan to save Superman. Well, it's not really to save Superman, though, is it? It's kind of just to prove that he's smarter than Brainiac. That's the vibe I get. But I feel like they've kind of got a bit of a relationship between them both, where they kind of got a love-hate relationship. Like they like, what would Lex Luthor do if he didn't have Superman to plot against?
Oh yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm interested to see what his plan is, and I kind of want to see Superman's reaction to him knowing that Lex Luthor is the one that saved him, if that's what happens. But yeah, the artwork is great. Like I said before, it's like seeing stills from the actual film or from a film. It's like a perfect homage. It's so alike, and I can't get over it. Every time I read one of the issues, I'm like taken aback.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite issues. With every stack of comics I get each week, when this is in the stack, it's always the first book that gets read. And what I always find kind of mind-blowing, and it's hard to sometimes get your head around it, is because Superman 78, the movie, it's ingrained in all of us. We know, what happens, or we seemingly know what happens to the characters. But if you do truly take this as a sequel, or if you do truly take this as canon, like I hope people do, you'll get people out there say, "Oh, this isn't my Superman," or "This isn't what happens." It's completely added new creases to a story that you thought you knew, but now it's expanded it. Like, we all believed that Superman's parents were killed with Krypton, but now they've been alive all this time, and it's just like all these years of knowing something, and then to suddenly be told, "Well, hang on a minute, you haven't learnt the full story. This is the full story." It's been a joy. And it's also interesting because a friend of mine recently showed me a Christopher Reeve interview where he was talking about working with Marlon Brando.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys have seen it. And it's, do you know what, Tasman? It's really worth watching. It's damning on Marlon Brando's part, but seeing Christopher Reeve talk with such enthusiasm about the Superman verse and, the privilege it was to play Superman, but very damning on Marlon Brando's part.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Oh dear. And I don't know if it changes the order of the story, because when we spoke to Robert Venditti about this series, he said that Superman 3 and 4 are write-offs, like they're not included in this in this story universe. This is happening after Superman 2. And he said that it was in Richard Donner's sort of plans to introduce Brainiac. So I think they're very much, and the fact that Joanne and Lara were going to be alive in his third Superman film. So he's kind of pretty much followed the storyline as it should have been told, I guess.
Cool.
Oh, I love it when they do that. Because you'll find that Dark Horse and Boom Studios do a lot of that with their licensed properties, where they will take either the screenplay or something and they'll make it into like a comic book. I think they've done that with like Alien 3, and they've done it with RoboCop. Frank Miller's, I think it was going to be the sequel, RoboCop 2, where they made it into a new comic book with his script. So I love it when they do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, I say forget Superman, 83 or whatever, and let's just do Superman 96 and get the Nicolas Cage movie as a comic. Just
Hell
take the screenplay and make it a comic.
Yeah. Why not?
I'm surprised they haven't done that, actually. Yeah, that is a great idea. And
we should just do it ourselves.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that, but you can.
Was that the one where Kevin Smith wrote it?
Yeah.
Or was it?
He wrote one. He wrote one draft for sure. I'm not sure whether or not that was the final draft that was going to go to Tim Burton, but he definitely wrote one version of that script.
Did you guys hear, just quickly, just on a quick tangent, I promise, but did you hear that the Kevin Smith was talking about how they said to him that they wanted like a giant spider in it?
Yep.
And then he was watching Wild Wild West, and he was like, hang on a minute, are they trying to take the mickey or something? Because they did. Mechanical spider in it, so.
They did. They took that from the guy who made Wild Wild West was going to make the Superman Lives movie, and he wanted the giant spider so bad he couldn't do it in Superman Lives, so then he just did it in the Wild Wild West movie instead. Hilarious.
And Kevin Smith was watching it, and he was like, "Hang on a minute, are they taking them out of me?"
Oh. And Will Smith says that's his worst film.
Yeah,
I quite like it. Okay, so we'll move on because we still have a fair few comics to get through. Action Comics 1036, which is written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, art by Daniel Sampere, and colors by Adriano Lucas. So the first cover is by Daniel Sampere and Alex Sinclair. And it is very nice.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just waiting for Evan to bring it up on the screen.
I'm so sorry, you guys. I've been dropping the ball on this today. Here it is, right there.
There we go. So it's a great action shot of this new team in action, and they look pretty. I don't know the word. They look pretty powerful. Yeah, they look very powerful. Like they're very confident. It seems, and yeah, I like it. And obviously, you can see the atmosphere of Warworld in the sky because it's all red.
Mm-hmm.
And the variant cover is I think this is my favorite cover of the week.
Okay.
So this one is by Julian Totino Tedesco, who is my favorite artist at the moment to see his artwork and also to say his name. But yeah, this is just amazing. It takes me back because I've been reading the Golden Age comics of Superman. It just takes me right back to that. It's very much like a war propaganda Superman.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'll never tire of seeing Superman lifting a tank, and it looks like, and even with the sort of there's writing at the bottom which says like Normandy, France, and the date. It even looks like a photograph.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, honestly,
from that era.
Honestly, I hope they continue to just give Julian the variant covers for this
for everything.
Well, yeah, and then like these things are so good. Eventually, you can just make a coffee table book out of these things, and I would buy that because these are just they're incredible.
Yeah, and speaking of coffee, I think there's like it looks like he's made it look like someone's put a drink on the bottom. I think
yeah.
It looks like a tea stain. Yeah, which is quite cool because it looks like it makes it look like a real photograph even more.
It's really nicely timed as well because obviously in the States it's Veterans Day recently. Over here today it's Remembrance Day, so
yeah,
very poignant as well.
Maybe that's what it was, but yeah, it just takes me straight back to the Golden Age, which I love it.
Yeah.
But yes, the Warworld saga is off to a great start. Like this issue was epic. Like we're first introduced to Lord Premier Tharos, who I'm very intrigued by. Like we kind of learn that he's had previous interactions with the Phalosians before.
So this part is interesting because he's a Durlan. He's a Durlan, and the president of the United Planets in the 31st century for Legion is also a Durlan. And so it's weird that the first president or whatever, the premier, is a Durlan, and then it's still 1,000 years later, it's the same type of species. So I'm wondering if this implies that the United Planets is a little bit corrupt, where it's not an elected position, it's like a monarchy or something, where it's the descendants. So, but I don't know. So I just thought it was very interesting that. I almost thought it was in the 31st century because they look very similar.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
Well, I've never seen this character before, so this was my first interaction with him as well. But yeah, I'm very intrigued to see what the story is, like how he knows the Phalosians, because as soon as he hears their name, he completely flips out. Like he starts off as a very calm, collected, wise, and nice guy, and then he just turns completely chaotic as soon as the name's mentioned. So he seems like a very dangerous man. So I'm sort of excited to see what happens.
He goes completely 180. Like he's complimenting his mom, and things like that.
Yeah.
And then not only does he flip, but he's like, "I will kill your mom," something like that. He just starts insulting everybody. It's like everything he said before was a lie.
I'm very intrigued to see what happened there because stuff went down clearly. But after that moment, we see Superman and the Authority arrive at Warworld. The artwork here is amazing. I love the page where they take their first look at the planet, where it's just like a big fiery mess, and you can kind of see the heat reflecting off their faces, and they ask what the fiery mess is, and it's like people fighting. So Mongol and his army have pretty much hung the dead out there to warn others, I guess,
grim.
of what they're capable of. Which, I wasn't expecting that.
And
this
obviously, page is grim.
Yeah, the team don't really realize what it is until, even Superman has to sort of go up and take a closer look, because it's just one of those unbelievable things. But it's sort of countless bodies, basically. So Superman flies up to close the eyes of the dead, and Lightray sort of says he clearly cares about every individual, which I really like that moment. And obviously there's probably too many people out there for him to close the eyes of everybody, but it was just a nice touch that he went out and did that.
Well, this page was this page was just grim. Seeing them hung up, some sort of like in the cross kind of shape, and like having Superman's symbol coated on them. It was just like harrowing. Like, this is like one of the most harrowing pages I've seen in a long time. I wonder sort of like how the writer sometimes sort of like gets across what they want to see on the page, because this is just impact.
Yeah,
I didn't do this review, but if I did, I would have just written impact.
Yeah, you're talking about a different moment though. So that's the next part I'm about to talk about. But the first bit is where he's kind of like in this, I guess it does look like a satellite. It's like a circle, and he's kind of like the Da Vinci thing sort of strung inside it. Yeah. So they proceed and then find a hologram of one of Mongol's people who Superman's already met when he was the hologram on Warworld. So this hologram man, I'm not sure what his name is, then shows them where the Philosians and slaves are. And this is what Ash was talking about. It's brutal. It's like a scene from like Vikings or something like that. It's I wasn't expecting it to see it in the pages of an Action Comics comic. But their bodies are all sort of chained to stakes. They've got, there's countless bodies for starters, and you can just see the horror on Superman's face. You can see his face drop in the artwork, which is very well done. And they're all sort of branded with the Superman emblem, which Ashley was just talking about, which it just makes it all the more impactful for him, because he's going to kind of feel like he's responsible for that.
Like now, even Manchester Black is like looking down. Like even Manchester Black, who's got like normally got a quip or a smart comment to make, even he's like looking down, like, I don't even look up at this point in time. Yeah,
it's rough. So again, they proceed, and then Superman makes an amazing speech, as he always does, to the people of Warworld in a bid to get them to side with him. But this is like a hard speech to make, because it's going to be hard to convince this crowd, because their whole lives they've been taught that the chains are like trophies to them, and he's just gone there. They don't know who he is, and just kind of trying to get them to side with him and forget about him.
I appreciated that moment though, because he says in his speech, like, I'm saying these words, you're not going to agree with them or even understand them, but I'm going to say these words, and then later you can learn what they really meant, and that you can trust them, and that really resonated with me. It's like, what you say matters, even if you're talking to an audience that doesn't understand exactly what you're trying to come across. It's still, those words have been said, and they can look back on those words and realize them later.
The speech was a great speech, and I think in the panel where he's making the speech is a great panel to start with anyway. But then I think in the background that's all the people of Warworld, isn't it? You can see like little,
probably not all of them, but a lot of them.
He's talking to a lot of people. But that's a hard one to convince, because if someone's been brought up on something, thinking one thing, and they've just been told something different and told what they believe is wrong, then it's it's going to be impactful for them as well. I've seen that David Beasley has put a comment about the continuity, but I'm gonna
let's save it till the end after we finish.
Because I've got a little bit which links to that. So we then meet a plethora of new characters, which are the ones that Miguel Mendonca and PKJ shared on social media probably a month or so ago. So there was one called Darling, who was this big brute who had an orphan in a glass jar or something like that. I can't remember the names of the other ones, but we learn in this issue that they're Mongol's champions, so they're his best fighters. Which, they kind of, in the tease that we got of the characters, they kind of looked pretty villainous, but I didn't want to I didn't want to say they look like villains just because they might not have been, but yeah, my suspicions were confirmed in this. But they all seem to be a very suitable match for Superman because obviously he's weakened by the effects of the previous mission with John. And it is here where you can bring David Beasley's comment into the forefront. So does this issue put the continuity debate of Superman and the Authority to bed? And I think it does. So it's here that we learn how this series fits in with the series by Grant Morrison. So I always thought it was in continuity, but I did have questions as to, like Evan said, the way he looks, his hair's different, he's got a different suit. But this is confirmed to be part of the weakening effects, the grey hair, because we see him with the grey hair in this issue, and we learn that it's been covered up by Enchantress, who's using her powers to hide his weakness to the enemies, which is, I thought that was very clever, and I was not expecting that to be the way it links in.
Yes, I agree that this does confirm that it is in continuity, but I also will say, I mean, it's supposed to be in continuity, but I feel it's very sloppy. It's very sloppy. It is like we still don't have any sort of explanation for the meeting with JFK. And here's what I think. Here's what I think happened. So you have, and I don't know any of this. This is just my personal, thinking of what I imagine happened behind the scenes. Is you've got
headcanon. This is your headcanon, Ever.
Yeah. It's not even my headcanon of the series. It's my headcanon of the behind the scenes in DC Comics, and it's this is what I think happened. I think you have Philip Kennedy Johnson comes in. He's got this story idea, and then Grant Morrison comes in. Either they asked him to come in, or he's like, "I've got a cool idea for this," and they let him come in because he's Grant Morrison and he's got a good track record. And Grant Morrison just every time, always plays fast and loose with the rules every time. And in his own series, he's like, you know what? Whatever. I'm doing whatever I want. And I think that's what happened. And now we've got to say it's part of continuity, but obviously I don't think Grant Morrison paid attention to the continuity, and he's like, whatever, I'm gonna noodle it, and it's gonna be whatever it is. And now it's up to Philip Kennedy Johnson to try to figure out, okay, how do I put this back in? We still have no explanation for why Superman was there in the 60s. We have no explanation for why Ultra Humanite is now again Superman's first villain when it hasn't been that way since the 40s. And so Superman has been with King Arthur and stuff. We have no precedent for that or anything. So yes, I feel like it is in continuity, but I think it's a sloppy job, and hopefully they'll be able to tighten it up a little bit to make it make a little more sense.
I don't think that was the case, but there are things that still need to be cleared up, like the JFK thing, and he's got a different suit, so that hasn't been explained yet either. So obviously there is still a lot of explaining to do in terms of what happened, what's happening. But I don't think it was a case of they've both had these ideas and now they've got to kind of bring it together, because I think it might have been for San Diego Comic-Con, there was a panel with Tom Taylor, Grant Morrison, and Philip Kennedy Johnson where they were all talking about how their ideas link in with one another and how they work together to come up with the storylines.
Right. But what I'm saying is, like, this even happened when they were doing 52, where they do it week by week. And because they're doing it week by week, they have 4 different writers on it. And you can tell which comics Grant Morrison wrote. Like, it's all supposed to be one story, but you can tell Grant Morrison wrote this issue. And it's because I feel like he just plays fast and loose with the rules. And it's one of the reasons why I didn't like Final Crisis. And I apologize. I am not the biggest Grant Morrison fan of just his writing, because every time he tries to write an in continuity story, it drives me absolutely insane. And so now we're seeing it here again with Superman, the Authority, and it's tying in. So that's just me. I can't wait for our interview with Philip Kennedy Johnson again, so we can ask him these questions. and
he hasn't replied to me actually, so I'm going to chase him on that.
I will say with the Grant Morrison kind of topic, I do feel that DC still very much rely on his name to sell books. You know, and I think if he does come along and he's got something in mind, and perhaps there's not necessarily room for it, DC will make allowances for him to come in and do something, and like Evan says, try and rejig things to make it all kind of come together. You know, Grant Morrison's got a very recognizable name. He's like, his IP in of himself is, you know, is a huge deal, I think, to any, you know, any kind of publisher, and they have the luck of Grant Morrison on their books for that period of time. So yeah, I think he's probably came along and said, I've got an idea, and they're probably like, okay, great.
We can make it work.
Yeah. For sure. Yep. So I just wanted to point out, you know, this new group that has just been introduced, are they like Thanos's what is it, Black Order or the Dark Order?
Don't kind of getting no one will notice. No one will notice.
I'm kind of getting an Ebony Maw kind of vibe going on with one of the characters.
Yeah.
I guess they're kind of a very similar group of people. Well, I don't think they're people, but
I do love the part where the limbless guy makes that speech, and I love how everybody's like, "Oh man, that was an epic speech." Like, they're like, "What he said was just horrible, but we got to give him credit because that was really epic."
So once we learn of how Enchantress is covering up Superman's weakness, so sadly that plan didn't work because Mongol has been watching them for far too long and already knows this information, and it's just then he makes his grand entrance upon a huge beast, which I thought was pretty epic. Like, his entrance was pretty good. The issue ends, which
is a 10 from me.
Yeah, it's a 10 from me. It's very annoying that it ends at that point, but it's like it's like a Mexican standoff, like a final showdown. They're face to face finally. I can't wait to see what comes next, because I thought, I think I can't remember which exact issue it is, but in one of the previous Action Comics issues where Superman goes there, but he's actually the hologram, I thought that was when they were face to face, and I was like, yes, it's going to happen. But now this is it now.
Well, I think this is far from the final showdown, because as we've discussed in the past, this is supposed to tie into was it World War Superman or whatever it was, where the future state, where he's been on there forever and he's in chains, and so I feel like this is not going to go well for Superman.
You know what? I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
I did see I actually saw a cover for an issue coming out in January, and it is just give it to me. I want it framed on my wall.
He's wearing the whole thing. And I know that Philip Kennedy Johnson is pushing for a film of this storyline and Henry Cavill. And I mean, if it means Henry Cavill's wearing that outfit, I'll watch it.
I hope they change the briefs for the screen, honestly. Please.
I don't mind.
Like a little rag kind of like little skirt thing going on.
Yeah, sure.
A loin
anything but the Speedo. We don't need the Speedo for this part.
I have to say, this last page, it just kind of reiterates this Mongol is not a jobber. That's like a wrestling terminology for a guy that just comes in and gets beaten, like previous Mongols. This guy is the real deal for me, especially coming in on the Cloverfield monster as well. He looks badass.
Cloverfield monster.
Clover.
Well, do you know what? I kind of had... Well, I've always got hope in Superman, but I kind of had high expectations thinking, Superman's got this. But now you reminded me that, Worlds of War is tied into this. So, yeah, it's kind of pretty damning, isn't it? Like, we know it's not going to end well.
Yeah. I'm for it, though.
Okay.
This is great stuff.
It's like, I don't know if you've read Planet Hulk, but that's a great series where Hulk is taken down to nothing. He ends up being a slave, and he's going to claw his way back up to the top. And that's always a great story arc.
Yeah, I can't wait for this. And that sounds really good, actually, the Hulk. I need to start reading other comics, because I literally just read the Superman comics. There's so many good comics that I'm sure are out there that I just haven't read.
There's a lot of Superman comics to read.
And there's a lot of Superman comics I haven't read. So when I'm at the grand old age of 99, getting through the final ones, I'll start reading some of the other characters. It's taken a while. So we'll move on to anything else to say about Action Comics 1036 before we move on.
Excited for the next one.
Definitely.
And yeah, I agree. This Mongol is my favorite interpretation for sure.
Yeah, he's pretty badass. Okay, Justice League Last Ride issue 7, which is written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Miguel Mendonca and covers by Enrica Angiolini. So this cover is by Derek Robertson and Diego Rodriguez, which shows the Justice League all staring confidently into space, which I'm assuming they're looking at some sort of enemy and not just posing for the camera. But yeah, I think they all look great.
Yep.
Yeah, great.
And the variant cover is by the writer himself, Chip Zdarsky, which I was not expecting, which is a very classic looking Batman. Well, they all look pretty classic, to be honest. I love the way...
Looks like a school photo to me.
A school
class photo. Looks like a class photo.
Yeah, with the background. We just need like Batman's face like superimposed sideways.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a nice cover. Evan, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one, seeing as you did the review.
Okay, well, actually, I think we're going to have to look at the 6th and 7th one because I don't think we've talked about number 6 yet.
Oh, do we not? Oh, okay.
So,
missed comics from the list.
They blend together pretty well. So number 6, if you read my review, this is where the story has turned from being like, okay, this is pretty good to, okay, this is now a classic. This is epic. This is, insane. And we finally get the turn in the story arc where we realize this whole time, Green Lantern has not been Green Lantern. He is Darkseid's consciousness inside Green Lantern's body. And he has been there ever since his defeat years ago at the Central Power Battery on Oa. And so now that Batman has discovered the many, many Darkseid clones, he finally realizes, oh, snap, this has been Darkseid's plan all along to get here so he can return his consciousness to a new Darkseid body and essentially be resurrected. And that's exactly what happens. And now he not only has his Omega effect, but he's also got the entirety of the Green Lantern power inside of him, enhancing the Omega effect. So this is like a crazy hybrid Darkseid that we've never seen before. I'm a big fan of like fusion, like in Dragon Ball where they fuse together, or even in the Justice League cartoon show, there was some fusion stuff. There are two enemies stuck together, and we've already seen some of that with Brainiac and Hank Henshaw. And so now we've got Darkseid and a Green Lantern sort of thing. And so anyway, it's just a big, gigantic fight is going on between all of the heroes and the villains, and it's just a slugfest. Darkseid reignites Apocalypse, but now it's with green fire rather than the traditional fire. And basically, Apocalypse becomes new Oa, or the new Central Power Battery for the Green Lantern Corps. And so basically Darkseid empowers, I think he empowers other people to fight for him. We've got more bounty hunters that show up to go get Lobo. They set Lobo free because Lobo was a part of Darkseid's plan the whole time. He was there to help lure them to Apocalypse, but now his contract is done. Batman hires Lobo to be on their side now. So Lobo's like, okay, sure. And so they're all fighting. And at the end, it's revealed that somebody else is alive as well. And it's the Martian Manhunter, the whole catalyst for the Justice League splitting up. His consciousness has been living inside the Central Power Battery this whole time. And now that Darkseid has reawakened the power in the planet, he's able to manifest himself as a Green Lantern construct, but with the full consciousness of Martian Manhunter the whole time. So, like, it's just, you have all these classic characters. Like, these aren't like the off-skirt side characters. These are like the main players in your DC universe, and they're all taking center stage in this epic conflict like we've never seen before. And it's just super cool. Another thing about it is, like, Go ahead, Tasman.
I was just gonna say I love both these issues. Like you said, it went from being an alright. It was a good story anyway, but this just pushed it to the next level.
Well, to me, this really sets things apart because, like we've been talking about, we have this World saga, which is epic, but it's not all the characters we know and love. It's like 2 characters we know and love, and then it's a bunch of other people. And the same thing with like Death Metal, where it's all the characters we know and love, but they're just weird, wonky, crazy versions of the characters. But here it's like, okay, we're back to basics. We're back to the things that we love and know about these characters and this universe, and we're just milking it for the best, most epic moments we can get. And so if you haven't read this stuff, I highly recommend checking it out. And then issue 7 is the final battle, where I don't need to talk about it too much because, I mean, it's self-explanatory. It's the final battle. All the things we just mentioned, all the characters we just mentioned, they're all fighting. They're all pulling out all the stops. And I'm sure you can hazard a guess, but the good guys win. And then it sets up, me and Ashley were talking about this before the show, it possibly sets up a new series. So they say at the end, we're no longer Justice League of America. We're no longer Justice League International. We're Justice League Universal. And that's really cool. I think that's a great idea. Like we've already said, we have a multiversal Justice League. Me personally, I'm not a fan of the multiverse. I like a singular universe. And so Justice League Universal, though, that sounds like a really great idea. It's like a Justice League iteration of the Green Lantern Corps. And I hope that we get to see something like that in the future. This was a 7-issue miniseries by Chip Zdarsky. He did a 6-issue miniseries over at Marvel called Spider-Man Life Story, and it went so well that they've expanded on that idea, and there's multiple titles now under that umbrella. And so hopefully we'll get something similar here with the Justice League. Yeah,
I did. But I saw that the hint at the end, but I didn't think of it as a hint towards a new comic series. But it totally makes sense because both of those names are comic series, aren't they?
Yeah. One last thing. At the very end, everybody's back in their civilian clothes, and Superman is wearing his own merchandise. I thought that was so funny. Because we have the Grant Morrison run, he was wearing a Superman t-shirt, but you get the feeling, okay, this is a t-shirt he made himself for the express purpose of being Superman. But this, it's like clearly he went to Walmart and he bought a Superman shirt for himself.
I quite like the idea of him as Clark Kent going into the shop and just be like, I'm just going to buy this for myself.
Yeah. I think that's hilarious. And it's like the exact opposite of there's this one time in the Teen Titans run where Kid Flash they're having an off day, and he goes and gets a Green Lantern tattoo. And they're like, why did you get that? And he's like, no one would ever suspect that Kid Flash has a Green Lantern tattoo. It's the perfect cover. And then his super fast metabolism gets rid of the ink in 5 minutes. So he went through all that for nothing.
Ouch. So Philly Man says they need to stay grounded on Earth. Let the Green Lantern Corps take care of the universe. Yeah, you got a good point, but it would make a good storyline.
Well, and Philly Man, I would normally agree with you, but since this is out of continuity, this is not in our mainstream continuity, I would be totally fine with this. You can go and explore places that you couldn't in the main continuity because of all the, whatever. So I think you could do this with no long-term repercussions or consequences. With crazy ideas like this, I love it when it's out of continuity because you can explore those things without messing with your main characters.
Yeah.
Why I desperately wish the Authority comics were not in continuity, because then I could enjoy them more. But we'll talk more about that next time.
I did want to point out one thing with this issue. Hold on, I've written notes. Wonder Woman striking off Lobo's head, I was not expecting. This Wonder Woman in this series, she's badass. I love her. Yeah. Obviously, she knows he can grow back, but yeah, so it's not quite as savage as it first seems, but yeah, I wasn't expecting to see that. And also, so Martian Manhunter, we know he's dead and he's kind of coming back through the energy in his consciousness. But then there was also a panel where there's loads more members of well, not just the Justice League, but other superheroes, including Aquaman and Supergirl, and they come back the same way. So does that mean that they're dead too in this continuity?
No. I think when that wall of characters attacks, it's just Green Lantern making those constructs.
Okay.
Yeah, he just for dramatic effect. Like he could have made them spears, but instead he's like, no, we're making them all the superheroes. I'm sending a message.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But Martian Manhunter, yes, Green Lantern is not manifesting that image of him. His own consciousness is. He's kind of merged with the Green Lantern energy, which is really interesting because, I mean, Martians in this universe, like their essence or their soul or whatever is not necessarily tied to their bodies because they're able to speak into other, people's minds. It's a little bit more nebulous there. So I could totally imagine he would be able to, disassociate from his own body and be able to survive as a consciousness elsewhere. So very interesting.
Yeah. And I love the moment where Superman and Wonder Woman simultaneously take on Darkseid and both give him an uppercut, and his head literally goes back the opposite way. That was pretty epic.
Great
and I'm glad to see that at the end they kind of realize what a powerhouse team they are, and they kind of come back together, because in the first issue they were talking about like if they're even like the Justice League aren't even needed, and they were kind of talking about breaking up. So it's nice to see this series sort of wrap up with them coming back together. It's quite nice. Anything else to say on that issue?
I just think I think it was a great issue for like if you've perhaps got a niece or nephew or friend who's just perhaps watched the Justice League film and then they're like, I just want to read some comics. This would be like a great hardback or paperback just to give them, because it's not tied into any continuity whatsoever. It's just a great read, like Evan says, with all the big players, all the big names that you know and love. And secondly, this podcast today, I'm a huge action figure guy. McFarlane, I need a Darksiders Green Lantern. I need Mongol's Dark Order as action figures. This has been a great day for action figure ideas, I think.
And he releases a lot, so I'm sure that they'll probably come.
Piggybacking on Ashley's comment about getting this for your niece or nephew, again, people get their heads chopped off. So maybe not a young niece or nephew, but yes, there's some violence in there.
Well, come on, Evan, he's talking as she's holding his head.
Yeah, it's dripping lots of blood.
Yeah, it's pretty gory. And then we'll move on to Superman vs. Lobo issue 2, which is written by Tim Seeley and Sarah Beatty, with art by Mirka Andolfo and colours by Arif Prianto. So the cover for this one is by Mirka Andolfo, and I'm just sorry, Ashley, I'm going to steal what you said in your review, but it's very much, I don't know what, you talk about it. Go on.
Well, this cover, I mean, Evan, you'll be able to chime in on this one as well, buddy, because obviously this is American Uncle Sam propaganda, right, from back in World War II?
Yeah, I can see that. I didn't notice that, but yes, I can see now that it's definitely trying to evoke that, yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely sort of see some, like, he's definitely breaking the fourth wall and pointing at us. I always kind of feel like, Lobo will be the perfect character in the DC universe to be like the Deadpool, where he kind of breaks the fourth wall. Not necessarily breaking the fourth wall, but you could definitely use Lobo to tackle real world situations or moments that are happening, in the real world.
He could be like the genie from Disney, where he's just making lots of pop culture references that he shouldn't know anything about because he's from space.
Yeah, lots of satire, lots of sort of tongue in cheek. I mean, I wrote that in a review. Like, this whole thing is sort of very tongue in cheek. You can imagine him kind of saying something and then maybe referencing something that really happened in real life and giving a wink and a nod and sort of saying, there you go, I know about that. Don't you worry about that. I'm not just in the comics. I'm in your head.
Yeah. I also love how he's drawn devil horns on Superman's head as well. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
So the variant cover is by Fico Ossio, and I love it. It's so cool. The detail on that is phenomenal. It looks a lot like a really classic cover, like something from, like the 90s.
Yeah.
That kind of artwork.
Real sort of traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah, this reminded me, this took me all the way back to sort of, like I said in the review again, like Image Comics, around that time where, you know, everyone was kind of like, the guys were ripped, and you know, everything was just sort of enhanced. Everything was sort of you know, distorted in that kind of way that, you know, it wasn't quite feasible, but you know, it looked great.
Yeah, it's a great cover. I think that's my favorite of the two. So Ashley, seeing as you did the review for this one, do you want to take the lead?
Yeah, I certainly will. When you think about issue 1, and it took a lot of, it was a very sort of satire, kind of tongue-in-cheek look at real-life situations, sort of like social media and sort of like the culture we have of jumping on people for stepping in, perhaps when we didn't ask them to, even though it was the kind of the right thing to do. Well, none of that featured in this issue at all. This issue very much stands on its own, and it has a lot of different themes from first issue. So I was kind of taken a bit back by that, because obviously, you know, reading a comic and writing an in-depth review, you kind of expect some tone and some stuff to be passed on from that issue to the next. It has none of it at all. So all that stuff to do with like social media and the way it can be abused, or the way that it can be used to piggyback an idea and to gain traction and things like that. Go on.
Yeah, there was one little bit about social media which made me laugh. I suppose, well, Newman's kind of using the birds to send a message to the people. I think it's in the Daily Planet, isn't it? And he kind of says, that's it, that's the tweet, which has been like a meme on Twitter for God knows how long. So I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah, so basically this issue is definitely a game of two halves. So the first sort of, in my mind's eye, the first half of the issue is very much the two characters sort of trying to acclimatise to their newly bequeathed environment. So Lobo is obviously on Krypton, and Superman is on Kazania, and we're just seeing how they're getting on. Superman is obviously depowered. He's staying with this very nice old lady called Mrs. Tribb, who was Lobo's ex-school teacher from when he was younger. And one of the things that I liked straight away was the fact that these people on these two planets know what's happened.
Yeah,
they understand that they've been reincarnated, and their memories are intact, so they are building on from what they know. So the Kryptonians, or a certain sort of offshoot of the Kryptonians, are reverting back to sort of like a primal kind of living, you know, not being so articulate and so kind of led by science, but more by their own kind of desires. You know, you never know what's going to be around the corner kind of thing. You never know when my time's up. So they're living a much more sort of primalistic, you know, kind of lifestyle. Whereas the Kazanians.
Can I chime in on the Kryptonians real quick? One thing I did notice, and I kind of liked about this issue, is that the version of Krypton that they're using is straight out of the John Byrne 1985 reboot. All of the costuming, the architecture, and the personalities, especially with Jor-El, it's all just taken straight out of that. Like, it's a continuation of that. And the if you read the World of Krypton series from that time, the earliest Krypton were shown, they are like a very more hedonistic, more
instinctual.
Live free, like just whatever, go with the flow kind of Kryptonians. So, and I feel like so that's another callback to that. So I thought it was very interesting.
It is fascinating, isn't it? Because there are so many different periods of Krypton's history that we kind of know little bits about here and there. Like, obviously, the Man of Steel movie created a more sort of regal kind of a hierarchy kind of setting, whereas in the New 52, it was very savage at one point, and then they introduced the clones and things like that. So there are very many layers of Krypton that we kind of know little bits about. But yeah, you are right, Evan. It comes straight from that run. So in Kazania, they are... Go on, Tazid.
I was going to say, I really like how each of the planets are not as they expected. So obviously, I think Lobo went to Krypton thinking, I think he says, like, these guys are boring, they're all nerds and that kind of thing. And then obviously Superman's expecting a planet full of Lobos when really they're actually quite nice people. Kind of.
But they're preparing already to defend themselves again.
Yeah.
They're already looking at ways to defend themselves because one of their own, killed them all. Like, that their planet is extinct, and I don't even know if Kazania has really been touched upon in the wider DCU, if we know much about it at all.
I don't know, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was interesting also, though, that after this resurrection and interacting with Lobo and with Superman, the planet's natures are changing from what they were. So like because Lobo's home planet was a very peaceful place, and Krypton was like touching another person's flesh on Krypton in that continuity was abhorrent. Like you would never ever do that. Everything was Zoom calls, and so with this, now they're changing. Like they're going back to that hedonistic thing, with the Zarnians, they're changing into, more of a cautious, vengeful, people.
Yeah. So we also get a really fun cameo, I'm going to call it, of General Zod, because of course you've brought Krypton back, so why not bring the Phantom Zone back? And this Zod ties directly into the Justice League Infinity Zod, where he's in the military suit.
Same costume.
Yes, same costuming. Yes, but I believe this Zod is also from the John Byrne continuity run, because his two followers are dressed, I think, exactly the same as they were when Superman had to execute them.
Yeah. So this is all very, to me, it was all kind of very slow. I wasn't always sure where it was like leading. We were getting to like the halfway point of the issue, and there was still no sort of like real crescendo moment being built. And then one flip of the page, we learned that the Kryptonians, or this cult, have decided to use Lobo's DNA to create a clone army of him, and they're going to go and pillage Kazania. They're like, well, hang on a minute. We used all our resources. We dried up our planet. If we want to continue living and, sustain ourselves, let's go and pillage someone else. So they all go and attack Kazania. And this is where Superman meets Lara and Jor-El. And it was just a beautiful moment for me. Evan, I don't know, buddy. I shed a tear. I really did. Some of the dialogue in this. Some of the dialogue in this was heartbreaking.
Yeah, to be fair, the bit about where Superman's explaining to, is it Dr.
Flick?
What was his name? Dr. Flick. Yeah, he's explaining to her that he's only ever seen a hologram of his dad, and he's never been able to hug him or ask him for advice, and he gets to do both of those things.
Yeah, I thought it was a tender moment.
Okay, so a couple of things. Okay, so like I said, I love that this is my continuity from when I was growing up. This is the Jor-El and the Krypton that I know, and so his interaction with Superman I thought was very spot on. I thought it was very good, where it's like when they first meet, it's very unemotional. Like Jor-El's like, "Of course, you're Kal-El. I read all about you. And
that's
it's
a
very
good point.
It's very detached and emotional. Yeah, and that was exactly like how I thought it would be. But where it goes off the rails for me is where it is revealed that the lady who Lobo has been loving on, who has been with Lobo naked and smoking cigars with Lobo, is Superman's mom. And not only is it Superman's mom, it's Superman's mom from this continuity where she, like, just seeing bare flesh, she almost lost it. She almost like threw up in the original continuity. So I think it's a little bit different. This is obviously a different.
It's Black Label, baby.
Yeah. So it's like, wow, okay. But yes, I did enjoy the moment where Jor-El sees that Superman has love for his enemies, and that really hit home.
Resonate.
And like he's like, the fact that you care about these people it's changed my my view of what I should be doing. And I thought that was like, wow, that's really good stuff.
Yeah, that was a good moment. Lobo just cracks me up in this series. Like everything he says just has me in stitches, but I'd never expected to see him wearing nothing but flowers. There's a bit where he comes out and he's just got flowers across himself. I just was not expecting to see that, and I think there's an image I'm not going to get out of my head for a while.
Okay, so the whole thing with this, I did not like this story. I mean, I thought it was funny, but it's not something I'm going to go back to because it's just too off the wall for me. But like, yeah, where Lobo's like, you know what? I'm going to make these butt bugs that'll crawl up their butts and blow them up from the inside and kill all. Well, it's like, wow, okay. Like all the Lobo parts were like, yeah, I can see now this is where the Black Label thing is coming in, because I didn't think the last issue was meriting of a Black Label thing, but now here we're pulling up
definitely.
The stop.
Like you said, you made a good point. I don't know if I would revisit this, but I definitely, again, like with most Black Label books, it's definitely the artistic, the approach of the creators. You know, they're not sort of like, I don't think there's too much kind of oversee here or oversight. I think the creators are really being allowed to express themselves and tell the story they want. And Tim Seeley, you know, obviously coming from that kind of like hack slash background, if I'm not mistaken, I can see a lot of kind of like moments from that in this. So
one thing I did love and continue to love is the scientist girl from the Fifth Dimension. I love her. I think that's a great character, and it's a great concept, and I hope she makes it into the main continuity, because I think that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely.
And she's quite funny too, because she has like a bit of a crush on Lobo, but I think Superman's reaction was a bit much. He was like, really, Lobo? And he's just like detailing all these things as to what, well, to be fair, he's obviously a bad guy, but he's like detailing all these things. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I loved that, because I mean, obviously the whole kind of touching on the whole girls only like the bad guy kind of thing, and him sort of pondering it and being like, well, I'm a good guy, you know.
Yeah, well, it was. I didn't take that as like he's jealous of Lobo. I think he's like, I took it as like he's a big brother talking to this girl. Like, you cannot date this guy. Like, please don't do it.
Yeah, he's like, he's a murderer. He's this.
But the murderer, I know, but I still like him.
Yeah, but she's definitely got a bad taste, because I mean, if you had to pick Superman or Lobo, you know, it's a no-brainer. And well, there's I don't think you've talked about this part yet, but there's a bit I love where Lobo comes face to face with General Zod, and General Zod says the classic line, "Kneel before Zod," and he literally kneels on his head. That bit was so graphic. I was not expecting that at all, but it was epic.
Yeah, there was some insane violence in this, but it was all done in quite a stylized way. I think where it was, you know, not too extreme on the eye kind of thing. It was all done very kind of stylized, very tongue-in-cheek fun.
Lobo broke the fourth wall in that moment. You remember that? Where he says kneel before Zod, he's like, as he's beating him up, Lobo's like, is there any like often repeated movie lines you want to say before I kill you? And he's like, kneel before Zod. But that was great.
I didn't pick up on that bit, but yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a fun read. It's definitely the two books definitely stand apart from each other. They both have like their merits, and you know, tonally it all kind of marries up. But in terms of sort of like ideas and things like that, they're definitely separate.
Yeah, and I think, well, I wasn't really expecting it to change. Like, the story has changed direction completely towards the end, didn't it? Because I wasn't expecting them to have to take on this next mission of now having to protect Newman against the Newman revenge team. Because it turns out he's done this a few times. I mean, they could have come up with a better name for that group of people. But
well, that's a homage to the famous Superman Revenge Squad, which continues to come up over and over again. So it's the Newman Revenge Squad this time instead of the Superman Revenge Squad.
But yeah, because I thought, well, because there's obviously more issues to come, but from the way that this issue was going, I thought it was going to wrap everything up. Well, it pretty much did wrap that storyline up. But yeah, we've obviously got a lot more to explore as well now.
Philly Man, did you see Lobo in Krypton season 2? He looked great.
Epic.
Yeah.
He looks flipping great.
When I read Lobo, sorry, I was going to say when I read Lobo, I don't read him in a British accent, but he made it work for that show.
Yeah, the guy was called Emmett Scanlon, I think his name is, the actor, and yeah, he was great. He was a great Lobo, and they brought him. Lobo's like quite a difficult character to nail the look on, isn't he? But they definitely nailed it there.
They did. And this is back when we were talking about Martian Manhunter in Justice League Last Ride. Speaking of Martians, do you guys watch Injustice? Sorry.
I do not. I have not seen it.
Yes. This newest season is amazing. I think I sent you guys a message that said, okay, DC or Warner Brothers needs to just pull the funding for every other DC project they're doing, abandon it, and put all the money into the Young Justice show and countless spinoffs, because it's the best piece of DC media out there at the moment. It's amazing. That's my opinion.
I'll watch it at some point.
It's not the opinion of this show, but it's the opinion of this co-host.
Anything else to say on Superman versus Lobo? Nope. Yeah, I think I agree with you, Ashley. It took a while to get to where it was going. It's very different to the first issue. It made me laugh, but I don't think I would go back and read it myself as well. But I'm enjoying it. I'm having a fun time when I'm reading it. So that's the main thing. But that actually wraps up all of our many comic topics for the week. Is there anything else anybody wants to say or talk about before we wrap up the show?
If you're not watching Young Justice, watch it. It's the best. It's been the best DC TV show for years now, and it continues to just rock it. And in the past couple episodes, they're all very centric on my second favorite comic book character of all time, which is Cassandra Cain, Batgirl. So it's just getting better. It's just better and better and better and better.
And I think I heard that Henry Cavill done a quick interview about Superman this week, or was it last week?
Yeah,
and I just wanted to touch upon that. He kind of said that the cape is always in the closet and it's ready to come on.
He said that a few times now, though. But yeah, I really hope this is it now, because, well, obviously this interview was part of the press stuff for The Witcher, and it just so happens that they talked a lot about Superman in there. So I feel like it wasn't for nothing. And then also something from that interview, which I thought was really interesting, the bit where he confirmed that the part where in Man of Steel where he snaps Zod's neck and then screams, that wasn't even in the script. He just went off on a limb and did that, which I thought was really cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
And he's just got so many ideas for Superman. He just gets Superman, and I just want to see him as Superman again.
Does it not feel like, though, his career, he's been waiting for this moment again? Because when he was Superman, I don't feel like his career really took off the way that I think a lot of people were intending it to, or he's not been in, I think for me, the most prolific thing he's been in since Superman, or since he's portrayed Superman, is The Witcher.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's done, so he's, Mission Impossible. That's a huge franchise.
Yeah. Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Man from U.N.C.L.E. There's talks. He's rumored to be one of the people in the run for James Bond, which they talk about in the interview. The Witcher of. Say again.
He's rumored to be in the run for Captain Britain, I thought.
Oh yeah. They mentioned that in the interview as well. He said he was up for doing that. He's obviously done The Witcher, and I'm sure there's
Enola Holmes.
Enola Holmes. Yep.
And I think he's. I don't know. I think Man of Steel pushed him off to get all of these, because I think if he hadn't have done, I think he was one of the actors that had a lot of bad luck until he got the role of Superman. So he did Immortals before, which was really good, and then he auditioned for Superman in Superman Returns and didn't get it. He auditioned to be Edward Cullen in Twilight and he didn't get it. And he's just auditioned for loads of big franchises and he just hasn't. It didn't come through. But I think now he's being approached, rather than audition, he's being approached to say, I want you to do this kind of thing.
I saw a post today that said, Tyler's Superman is just way better than Henry's Superman. And I was like, well, it doesn't really have to do with the actors. It's the writing and the direction of what they're given to be in, Tyler's Superman show is much more true to comic book Superman than Henry's is. But his portrayal of what he's given, they're both doing a great job with what they're given. So,
yeah, and they're two very different Supermen as well.
Yes,
as Superman, they're in two very different positions. So I don't think you can always compare the two against each other in terms of playing the character, because like I said, it's very different. Well, I'm going to have to wrap things up because I can hear my baby crying in the background. So firstly, a huge thank you to all the Patreons for their continued support as always. So if you want to find out more about our subscription, then there will be there's a link just there, as Evan has put down there, but I'll also put a link in the video description once it's all up and ready. So a special shout out to Dave Owen and David Beasley from the House of Al, who constantly support us in the highest way possible. So thank you guys for that. And I'm pretty sure one of the benefits was for the House of Al to come on the show after 3 months subscription. So I'm pretty sure you've both surpassed that. So I'll get in touch and we'll see if you guys want to come on. To those taking part in the live stream, thank you so much for being here with us. It's great chatting with you, and we hope to see you at the next one. And hopefully we've now, as you may have noticed, we've now linked the Twitter and Facebook accounts so you can watch it in more places. So it's just easily accessible. So I'm hoping that more people will get involved going forward. So yeah, I'm excited for that. And to those listening, thank you for taking the time to do so. And we'll see you next time for episode 24.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Welcome to The Aspiring Kryptonians, a podcast for Superman fans, hosted by Superman fans and focused around all things, you guessed it, Superman. After all, we are aspiring Kryptonians. From comics, TV, film and animation, each week we discuss our thoughts on the latest releases, news and even some retrospective reviews. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road.